And welcome back to another benchmark, but it's not benchmark, it's video. And welcome back to another video, and today is sunny day, and because of that I have good lighting back there. And today we will talk about bottleneck. CPU bottleneck or GPU bottleneck, it doesn't matter. I will try to explain what is bottleneck, what is CPU bottleneck, GPU bottleneck. I will hope so that you will understand me. Now, also I will talk about people in comments about that I have GPU bottleneck. No, really? And my answer for that, of course, I have GPU bottleneck. But CPU is here only to remove bottleneck, CPU bottleneck. Because GPU bottleneck practical doesn't exist. I mean, it exists, but it will not affect on FPS in game. How? Now I will explain. To simplify, CPU just collecting information and sending to GPU, and after that GPU render that. You get it? For example, put GT 710 with E9900F, I will get the GPU bottleneck, but it will not affect on FPS. Because CPU will not render the game. If CPU can forward 1000 codes per second and GT 710 can receive 100, then what will happen? It will happen that GT 710 will be at 100%, and it will be good, or of course it will be good, because GPU in games must be at 100%, because using full power of GPU. If you don't use full power of GPU, it will affect on FPS, and you will probably watch a benchmark, for example GT 1030 DDR5 model. You will watch that GPU benchmark and you will say, how they have 16 frames per second, but me, I have only 20. Of course that you have 20 because you have Core 2 Duo. If you have Core 2 Duo or some dual core CPU without 4 threads, it will be bottleneck, CPU bottleneck. And CPU bottleneck is when CPU isn't strong enough to send all needed information for GPU. If GPU can send 100 codes per second, but GPU can receive 500, it will be problem. Because CPU can send 100 per second, but GPU can receive 500. Because of that GPU will render only 100 codes, and it will be 18% slower than usual if you don't have CPU bottleneck. If you still don't get it what is bottleneck, I will try to explain on this way. This will be maybe funny, but I think that this is only way to explain this. Here we have battle, of course. This part of battle here is neck. And imagine that like CPU. But this part here is GPU. And how GPU can be at 100%? It can't be. Of course, because it's this CPU and this is GPU. GPU can receive 500 and CPU can send only 100. That means that GPU will receive only 100 instead of 500. And that is CPU bottleneck. But GPU bottleneck, it doesn't matter if you have E3 or E9 or E5 with low-end GPU, of course. If you have lower GPU, like me, GT 710, GT 730, GT 1030 and all GT graphics card from Nvidia, it will be same FPS with E3, with E5, with E9. You also can watch this video if you want to be sure what I'm talking about. In that video I compared G6400 with E9900F on GTA 5 with GT 1030. FPS are pretty identical, even if it's GT 1030 is the best GT graphics card from Nvidia. And you will always have bottleneck because all parts in your PC can be at 100% usage. I hope so that you understood me. Here you can like this video, subscribe to my channel, and see ya next time.